Very good. My name's Tim. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Tim.
So the newish person, I don't know who you are. I don't know if you've been in AA before. I don't know anything. So I'm going to assume nothing, and anything I say may or may not be of use to you or to anyone else. I'm simply an AA member. If you don't get anything out of what I say, that's all right. That's why we have different people each week. And there are lots of other meetings to go to, lots of other angles. And one thing I've learnt in AA is you can have the same thing said different ways. And it looks like people are saying a different thing, and then it turns out they're saying the same thing. So either it'll get through or it won't. My date of sobriety is 24th of July 1993. I'm in my mid-50s now. Why are we even talking about the steps? No point in going into step one unless we explain why the steps are even relevant. The person I was when I had my last drink had no choice but to drink. If I was to stay the same as I was, I would have carried on drinking. And to put it very simply, I needed to change, or more specifically, be changed. Because I couldn't change myself. If I could have, I would have. I didn't because I couldn't. So I needed to be changed. I could not change myself. But we've got a system. There's a wonderful line in the Big Book where it refers to a wholesale miracle. And I'm given to understand from the book and from other sources that over history, very occasionally, alcoholics would get sober. They'd be struck by a thought which would change their whole attitude and outlook, and they'd be set on a new course. Not just alcoholics, but it would happen to people, just regular folks who were in trouble or living a bad life. And this would happen like lightning striking. You can't force lightning to strike. Even dancing out in a thunderstorm with an umbrella won't necessarily cause lightning to strike. But what we've got in AA, if you look at the numbers, is what is called in the book a wholesale miracle, which is a funny little pair of words. It's like when M&S says exclusively for everyone. You're like, well, pick one. It can't be both. A wholesale miracle. A miracle is something that happens so rarely. You say it's a miracle, but wholesale is 2 a penny. So something extraordinary happens, I think, in AA. Something extraordinary happened to me. I was changed and I stopped drinking. Something miraculous happened to me, but this miracle apparently is completely ordinary because I'm a common or garden alcoholic and I had a common or garden so-called spiritual experience, as it talks about it in the literature, because I did the common or garden program done by all of the other common or garden alcoholics in AA. Wholesale miracle. And the fellowship is very nice, and meetings are very nice, and going for dinner is very nice. All these things are very nice, but they didn't change me. Someone explained to me it's like a stew. You want a casserole dish, but you don't want to eat. You want to eat the stew, not the casserole dish. It's the stew that matters. You can't make the stew without the casserole dish, but the casserole dish won't make the stew itself. You have to make the stew, and the stew is the steps. The stew is the process which, well, I do some basic things, and then I discover myself sober. I discover myself having changed the 3 things I can change. There's almost nothing I can change. I can't change the laws of physics or astronomy or biology or economics. I can't change the country. I can't change the people in it. I can't change the people around me. I can't change my emotions. I can't change my nature. I can't change the fact I'm an alcoholic, but I can change what I believe, I can change what I think, I can change what I do with the help of AA and a higher power. And when those 3 things change, everything else changes. Not directly, but everything else changes. So the process that AA has given me is a process to change those three things. So step one is at the beginning of this. The process of change, I'm not going to make any bones about it, is not the most comfortable process I've ever been through. The steps are not all that cosy, but they're a walk in the park compared to active alcoholism or dying from alcoholism. So when the book says we thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not, what it means is what we're offering you in the steps is literally the easiest, softest thing we can find. It's rough, but it's not as rough as any of the alternatives. Someone said to me, I was saying to someone once, life is hard, and he said, compared to what? And that was the last time I ever blamed life for anything. So step one, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. I think the first point is the steps on the scroll. I understand why one has them on the wall. Obviously each group does what it wants, and there are lots of good reasons. But the danger, I would see that on the wall and think, oh, that's the step. And it's not the step, it's the summary of the step. The full step is, in this case, it's a few chapters of the book. And the book itself says that, so the steps which summarise the programme. So there's a lot behind that statement. And it's how I diagnose myself as an alcoholic. And there are two parts to it. The first part, I'll read out a bit from the book, actually, which I find helpful. This is on page 44. In the preceding chapters, you've learned something of alcoholism, I'll say. You've learned rather a lot by this point. Anyway, we hope we have made clear the distinction between the alcoholic and the non-alcoholic. And it's got two conditions. Number one, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably alcoholic. Now, I put in English. That means I have little control over what I take when I drink. When I drink, my history is simply that I drank buckets of the stuff. And me thinking that at some point there's a magic wand is going to be waved and I'm going to start to be able to drink normally, I had to get that out of my head straight away. And the way I understood that is people asked me the question and had this discussion with me. So, well, why do you think you drank so much? Why do you think you overshot massively pretty much every time? I said, well, my childhood was very unhappy. And they said, but surely you've met other people with bad childhoods who don't drink the way you drink. And I had to concede, yes, I did. Well, or maybe it's not my childhood then. And I said, well, I was depressed and anxious. And they said, yes, but how were you the next morning? Were you cured of your depression or anxiety? No. Oh, well, that doesn't really make sense. And also, did it even work particularly? Well, often when I drank, I'd become more morose, or I'd become more anxious, or get rangy or violent. All sorts of strange things happened. So as far as a treatment for either of those is concerned, no. But also, I don't know about you, I drank when I was happy as well. So if it was because I was depressed, why did I drink so much when I was happy? Every single reason I thought I had for drinking massive quantities turned out to be an alibi. Wasn't real, wasn't true. I could find counterexamples for every one of those excuses. And what they said to me was the book is very clear. For people like us, none of those excuses, none of those reasons stack up. But there's one that does. And it's this. What if you're built like it? You drink like that because you're built like it. So you're just going to drink like that because that's how you're built. Would that explain it? I suppose so. But it really does. Because nothing else does. It's the only option left on the table. And that is a chilling thought, because it means that it doesn't matter what I do sober. If I were to drink again tonight, or at any point, I'd be off to the races. And I don't need to test out this theory, because unfortunately in AA one sees people testing it out, and the results are never good. So I trust what AA has taught me, which is my history suggests that I'm the sort of person that should never have another drink. And I've seen friends go out and die and be out for decades, literally, and be unable to come back. So for someone like me, there are two options left. Number one, I drink forever. Number two, I stay entirely sober. Now, I'm not out of the woods yet because it's got a second condition. If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely. At 18, I honestly wanted to quit forever. I was so ill from drinking, mentally ill apart from anything else. And I made an absolutely firm resolution to never drink again. And yet my last drink was when I was 21. So for 3 years, I was unable to. That wasn't going to change. That wasn't just one or two little mistakes over 3 years. It was consistently drinking again and again and again over 3 years. I have very, very occasionally... I've got one of those gas cookers, the old ones with the grill at the top, where you would put the plates under the grill to heat them up for when you're doing a roast or something. Just once, I put my hand on a plate which had been under the grill and I got so badly burnt. I've been careful ever since. There are various other things where I've been careful ever since. I got very badly burned as a child, and I'm extremely careful with hot water and hot water bottles in particular. And I've never forgotten. Once was enough. With alcohol, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times were not enough to teach the lesson. My relationship with alcohol is fundamentally different than my relationship with other things. This is not normal. And the explanation that was given was my alcoholism consists in the fact there is a bit of my brain which cannot be retaught. It is simply programmed to want a drink, and it will simply shoot up the idea, let's have a drink, periodically. And when it shoots up that idea, left to my own devices, I will obey that. And that is exactly what happened for the years between when I first gave up and when my last drink was. So I'm diagnosed, therefore, as an alcoholic. I'm the kind of person who, however bad it got, will have the first drink left to my own devices, and were I to start again, I'd be off to the races. So I've ticked the two diagnostic boxes. What that means is, so I'd been saying since the age of 16 that I was an alcoholic because it seemed, ridiculous as this seems now, it seemed oddly glamorous at the age of 16, very grown up to say that you were alcoholic. Obviously, it's a grotesque thing to brag about, but at 16 you do say grotesque things. I had no idea what I was dealing with. I had no idea of where it was taking me. I had to understand 3 facts about alcoholism. The first one is that it's progressive. What that meant was when I was 18, I could put the plug in the jug relatively easily, brush myself off and stay off for a little bit. Of course, I went back again, but I could come off it relatively easily. By 21, I couldn't anymore. It was a real struggle, even at 21, just to physically stop drinking. It had progressed. Its grip on me was greater. My mental resolve was weakened. Every parameter of my alcoholism had progressed significantly between 18 and 21. At 18, there were situations where I could still keep a lid on it. When I was with my family, who are very sensitive about alcohol because of alcoholics in the family who died, I could run amok 364 days of the year, but Christmas Day I could keep a lid on it just to not cause trouble. By the time I was 21, Christmas Day had gone as well. That was my Dunkirk. And progression in every single way, and that was by 21. So progressive. It's also fatal, and one doesn't need to look around or do much research to discover that's the case. The alarming feature of its fatality is one can't predict when fatal is going to be. Fatal is not necessarily in 20 years. But also, the other thing about fatal is that the death sentence might be passed years before the actual death. The point of no return might be crossed way before the person realises it. A friend of mine died of alcoholism a couple of years ago. A very good friend of mine who was sober many years, slipped, sober many years a second time. And it started off with some over-the-counter medication which gives you a little buzz, and within 5 years he was dead. What was the point of no return? Probably the point at which he did the first thing he shouldn't have. It has a momentum of its own. So the fatal blow is not the moment one dies. The fatal blow is the moment of no return where the mind can't find its way back again. And it won't look as though it's fatal until it finally is. Then you realise it years before the fatal blow, the death sentence was passed. So it's fatal. It's also incurable, apparently. I know because of my relationship with things like food, all of the mechanisms of my alcoholism are absolutely still in place, ready to roll. Whatever was in me and condemned me to drink the way I drank for years is just sitting in its armchair waiting. Now, that's the bad news. There's actually one more bit of bad news. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol. So that means, left to my own devices, the desire to drink will overpower me. Being obsessed with alcohol does not mean that I'm preoccupied with it. What it means is it hijacks me. And then the physical craving, the desire for another drink, which is amplified by every drink I ever had. So in my office, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone gets these sugar cravings and they go and have a biscuit from the biscuit tin, and they have one biscuit and they're all right. So it goes craving, consumption, satisfaction. I cannot even be thinking about drinking. Someone could give me a drink. I have a drink, and then the craving starts, and it goes consumption, craving. But there's no satisfaction. People said they drank because it satisfied them. If it satisfied me, I wouldn't have needed a second one. So there's no satisfaction anywhere at all. It was consumption, craving, consumption, craving, consumption, craving, just spiralling and out of control. So it starts off with a hijack situation and ends up in a hostage situation. Now, because that's the case, because at any point, left to my own devices, alcohol could say, right, we're off to the pub. I'm not in charge of my life. I'm not in charge of my life. It is in charge of my life. It's like when a doctor is on call. Sometimes you see in restaurants, someone said, oh, the hospital's just paged me, I have to go. As an untreated alcoholic, I am not in charge of my life, and that's what the unmanageability is. Because I'm powerless over alcohol, I am not in charge of the course of my life. And it's very funny, people try to split those two parts of step one apart, but there's a funny line here. I only noticed this recently. It says on page 60, our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. The first one is this, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. According to this, that's one idea, not 2. The 2 things are just like that. My alcoholism was in charge. I was not in charge. What the programme has done is I still have to live my life. I still have to run my affairs. No one's going to get me to bed on time and get me up on time and get me to work. Someone said the other day in a meeting that God's not going to do my ironing. A friend of mine many years ago said you've got to take action to activate your faith. God ain't going to slide no hot dog under your door. American. And that's quite right. So I'm the only one that can take any action. No one is coming to rescue me. No one is coming to save me. But it's like being the manager of a shop with an owner who's really in charge, and you phone up the owner every day and say, right, how do you want me to manage the shop today? This unmanageable shop. With the owner's financial backing and with the owner's direction, the shop can now be managed. So my job is to manage my life, but it's to manage it under the direction of a higher power. Now, if anyone's troubled by the notion of a higher power, I really wouldn't worry about it. not yet. That can be, the conception of it can be dealt with considerably later. If you don't know anything about theology, don't pretend, just park that question. What it means in practice for me is to follow the 12 steps, to try to live by the, not to try to live by the principles, to try to do something, so I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to say I tried. To live by the principles of the steps. To try out prayer. You don't have to understand it. One just has to do it. I was just told to do it. Just ask. Doesn't matter if you don't know what you're asking. Ask that power each day what it would like you to do, or he or she, if you prefer those pronouns. Ask to be given direction on what to do. Ask to be given the strength to do it. If you have any bright ideas, run them by a grown-up. If you don't know what God's will is for you, well, welcome to the club in terms of absolute certainty. But here are some basics. How about get to bed early, get up early, eat 3 or 4 meals a day, make sure they're healthy, do some exercise, get a job, go to the job, do the job well, even if no one else in the outfit does. Pay your bills, pay your taxes, feed the dog, feed the cat, call your mother on her birthday, send her a birthday card, send everyone in your family birthday cards and Christmas cards, whether you like them or not. Get a home group, go to your home group, get some service, get some sponsees, make your amends, complete the steps, get a hobby. Now, that will keep you busy for about 10 years. Once you've done that for 10 years, come back and say, okay, God, is there anything else? And there might be a couple of other things. Maybe you'll have to join a monastery, who knows? But God's will for me is mind my own business, do what is in front of me, fulfill my obligations promptly, fulfill them well, keep my big fat mouth shut, leave other people alone, stay out of other people's minds, leave them to sort themselves out. If they ask for help, give it. If they resist, stop. And that's about it. And as a result of that, for someone who came into AA not just alcoholic, but with a pretty hefty dose of very bad, what they would now call mental health issues, they were rather ruder about the question then. Effing whack job, I think, was the phrase used about me. Not allowed to say that anymore, are you? But I was extremely unwell. That's all cleared up nicely. And not because I have had any extra help or have got any clear understanding. I've just done what AA has suggested. I have an occupation. I have somewhere to live, which is perfectly nice. I'm married. I looked after my mother until she died. My finances are fine. My relationship with food is fine. All these things which were really problematic are now fine. I've got a very easy life, frankly. The only difficulty I have is me. And for that I have AA, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.